I stand by the kitchen door, hesitating as if the world behind it has shifted and nothing will ever be quite the same again. Sam is in the living room, letting out a loud yawn, calling me to see Lizzie carve her pumpkin for school. The walls hum with TV noise, the air is thick with the scent of coffee, but all of it feels strangely distant and unfamiliar. I slide my finger along my phone's screen, trying not to think about what I have planned for today, convincing myself that by this evening I'll be another person entirely. Every day lately has been a rush of nerves and excitement and something heavier, like worry that won't stop. I notice little changes, the way the mug on the table isn't where I left it, or how the blinds shift depending on who walks through the room. It feels like the order here is held together by invisible strings, and I am one of them, not quite fully woven in. Outside, the streetlights make the wet pavement glow in stripes, and every minute I find myself hoping no one suspects a thing. I try to reassure myself it's all neat, messages deleted, secrets kept. Tom and I only exchange looks and words that nobody else would notice. Sam lives right beside me, but sometimes it's like he's on another planet. He enjoys small things and makes plans for the weekend, worries about electric bills, invites me to his old favorite movies, laughs when I make tea the way his mother did. It all feels a little like a movie, maybe one I used to love but don't anymore. The moments when I want to be close are fewer. More often, I just want to disappear, slip out of my own skin and forget who I am now and who I was. Today I see Tom's name on my screen again. He's become both my escape and my greatest worry. The morning message reminds me he hasn't forgotten last night. He asks for a quick smile, wanting to know if all is well, hinting things are getting too risky. My heart thuds in my chest like I'm being chased, not comforted. I go about things as I always do, telling Sam about my plans for the evening, watching him nod and take in what I say. He fries up eggs the old way, focused on his recipe while I quietly double-check my phone for any mistakes, making sure history is cleared. The guilt is suffocating, pushing against the thrill and the freedom. What strikes me is how the conflict inside divides my life like cracks in a coffee cup, visible only to me but growing every single day. Outside, the bus rumbles past. Lizzie presses her face to the window, asks if I'll be home tonight, and is delighted when I say I'll try. Her happiness stings, because honestly I don't know where I'll end up or how I'll feel if the truth ever gets out. Sam organizes a family breakfast, passing pancakes around the table in a little ritual that reminds me of old times. But even now, each bit of honey, every spoon, every glass of orange juice seems off, poisoned in a way only I notice. I am the shadow on the wall, stretching longer and thinner, and I've lost the strength to pretend life hasn't changed. The phone rings, a short buzz that signals someone out there is waiting for me. Everything feels sluggish, my legs a little shaky, and I wonder if I can really break free from the life I've built here. The day starts with small anxieties. Sam's late, his shirt is creased just so, and I remember how recently I held someone else's hand in secret. Even a quick look in the mirror shows something unfamiliar, a grip I can't loosen, even for myself. Out of habit I wash dishes. From the kitchen I hear Sam ask for those shopping links for the new coffee maker. I say I'll send them later, hoping he won't ask to see my phone right there and then. Suddenly it's clear, messages aren't safety, passwords aren't protection, each layer just another wall for my double life to hide behind. I can't get out of my head something Tom wrote last night. If Sam knew, it would all be clear. Sam keeps hugging me and sometimes looks right at me with such trust, and that emptiness chills me to the bone. I almost believe I can hold on to both realities, but deep down I know that one day it will all come apart. Just not today. Every morning the routine unfolds just like always. Sam puts the kettle on, checks the news on his tablet, leaves me a little note about Lizzie's after-school appointment. I write something back, short and simple, and notice how the words feel heavy, like I'm performing for someone who stopped believing a long time ago. When Lizzie comes running with her list of things, it's easier to just play along, keep the day moving, than try to explain why I haven't really looked Sam in the eye for over a week. Life in our home moves down its usual path. Sam calls work, goes for a jog, argues about paying bills. I see him notice I stay in the shower longer than I used to, but he never says much about it. Maybe he prefers not to notice, maybe he has doubts of his own. I catch him making my favorite tea, setting out strawberries by my laptop, tossing me a compliment about new earrings. I barely respond, everything settles like silt at the bottom of a glass, proof that what used to matter between us just isn't coming back. It's all double-sided now. A simple touch, the corner of a tablecloth not quite straight, a water bottle left on the counter, all hint at something else, a life layered over ours. When Sam asks about weekend plans, I answer, but it's as if he's talking to a stranger. The laughter we shared during winters, that joy building snowmen in the neighbor's yard, all return to memory and feels flat now. Shopping for groceries, talking about wine or tomorrow's parent meeting, none of it means much. Each moment, I wonder if the next step will be the one that tips everything over. Driving to work, my mind drifts to strangers' faces, and I think how easily one look could expose what's going wrong at home. In the coffee shop, people bicker about bonuses, and I'm distracted by Tom's message asking if I can slip out early. I reply that I'm busy, bluffing my way through a craving to just let it all go and do something reckless. At work, a couple of colleagues notice something different about me. One asks if I'm traveling more, another wonders why I look so tired. I brush it off, make excuses about having too much to do or Lizzie coming down with a cold. No one guesses the truth. I'm living along two separate roads, one leading back to our house where I pretend to be the perfect mother, another leading deeper into a place where Tom waits, reminding me that there's something inside me worth feeling again. Back at home, the tension slowly thickens. Sam shares that he lost his job, tells me not to worry, swears he'll find new work. I nod, do my best to support him, but feel the warmth in our home slipping away. It's not an act of betrayal, but more a way to survive. I avoid looking him in the eye when he shares his uncertainties, and sense that, somehow, less of us is here day by day. Each hour in these days is loaded with worry and a kind of reevaluation. I don't have the courage to tell Sam the truth, instead collecting thousands of little reasons why I crave something else. I tell myself I'm just missing my old self, that Sam doesn't listen, that Tom gives back more than just romance, he gives me freedom. I try convincing myself I can fix things if I stop this now, delete the contacts, end the meetings, believe forgiveness can patch over what's cracked. My emotional highs and lows cut through all the roles I play, mother, wife, woman. Even the stuff around the house feels like proof of distance, old photo albums, wrapped gifts, Sam's ring he gave me after I found my first real job. Sam tries his best to restore normal life, invites me on walks, suggests we take a silly couples quiz, plans for summer. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I say I'm too busy, sometimes I fake a headache or excuse myself with chores. Each new escape makes me think losing my mind wouldn't take much, not if pretending drags on too long. Late at night, when Lizzie's already asleep, I hear Sam tapping his fingers on the table. He talks about advice from a new coworker on saving a marriage, how you're supposed to have dinners with no phones, really look at each other, remember old funny stories. I force a smile, say it sounds good, but inside I'm just as anxious as when Tom used to go missing for days at a time. This time, I don't try to figure out why. Instead, I slip away for a bath, scrolling through old messages and wishing I could turn off every feeling, even for a minute. These weeks aren't just about losing our past. It's like I'm trying on a new, empty life, one that's anxious, hollow, and full of secret wishes. I stop leaving Sam little thoughtful hints, no more paired socks, no favorite cookies. Sometimes I shut off my phone's ringer just to avoid hearing his alarm. When he asks if I'm okay, I tell him I'm tired, that it's just a phase, that things will get better when the weather does. Sometimes, I spot a flicker of doubt in Sam's eyes, an uneasy look, a pause as he double-checks my schedule or glances at my phone a bit longer. But he never says out loud what's really on his mind. I have become a kind of shadow, sharing a house, bills, and vacation plans with the man I married, but every new day chips away a little more at the hole we used to be. My feelings swing wildly. Once in a while, I think maybe I should tell Sam everything now, before it gets worse. Maybe the affair could lead to honesty instead of just more damage. But most nights, especially when the house is quiet, I fear any decision will only bring more pain, for myself, for Sam, for Lizzie. In the end, I pick what feels easiest, pretending nothing's changed, even as everything continues slipping further and further away from what's real. More and more I catch myself feeling like a stranger in my own life, watching my choices unfold as if I'm standing in the corner, waiting to see what will finally break us. After a long and restless week, I stay late at work, already knowing Tom will reach out and ask me to meet somewhere new, away from the places we've gotten used to. A coworker asks if I can handle a late project. Sam and Lizzie are off at a friend's house for dinner, and for the first time I don't have to invent any extra explanations. My own freedom feels a little frightening now. That night, it's like the universe is working against me. Tom looks tired and says things at home are getting worse, his wife is more suspicious, and his daughter keeps asking where he's been. He tells me to stop calling or messaging, says he needs a few days to figure himself out. I step outside and realize how empty I feel, no comfort from him, no promise either, just a hollow sense that I have no good reason to head home early. I walk in late, making up a story about a busy deadline for Sam. He doesn't press for details, just asks if I want some dinner. In his voice there is a kind of tiredness, like maybe he's finally wondering about our life together. The next day Sam seems especially thoughtful. I notice how he watches me, like he's looking for the woman I once was. He talks about cuts at work, then brings up that little getaway we promised each other in the spring. I try a weak smile and say I'll book the cabin, but I know I won't be able to talk honestly about the trip. A few days pass and Sam suggests we all take a walk in the park. Lizzie tags along with the dogs. Flowers are blooming along the path, and Sam keeps his hand on my shoulder a few moments longer than normal. It used to soothe me, now it reminds me of the line I've crossed. He shares memories about when we first started out, about those early years when even a worn-out sofa felt like magic because we owned it together. I nod, fighting back tears, realizing every gentle thing he does only tears at the rift growing inside me. Later in the evening, I get a strange email with no sender, no subject, just a link and a few unsettling words. My secrets aren't secrets anymore. When I open it, I see old photos with Tom, one sent on a careless whim that now show up as proof of the life I tried to hide. There are dates, locations, little clues about where we met. Fear starts churning inside me, pressing past panic. Someone knows. I can't tell if I should worry about blackmail, exposure, or just knowing that private moments have disappeared into someone else's hands. I keep this all from Sam, acting as normal as I can, but safety feels thin. The things that used to protect me, TV noise, a favorite book, our own bed, feel distant now. At night I lie awake, staring into the dark, knowing what I tried to cover is suddenly open. My last layer is gone. The next morning everything seems ordinary, but there's a wall between Sam and me now. He's a little more cautious, asking little questions that circle around what he really wants to know: why I'm taking longer showers, why I keep running out to the store, why I'm tired all the time. I give simple answers: too much work, a rough season, visits with my girlfriends. In the evenings he sometimes reflects, sharing stories about our early years, about how happiness was always finding a way, even when we couldn't afford much. There's a softness in his voice, like hope and grief mixing together. It aches to think how much he aches, maybe because of secrets he senses but isn't willing to name. The days crawl by, packed with checking my messages and passwords, worrying about who might find out next. I pull away from Tom, avoid any trace of trouble, but the past isn't so easy to erase. I know I've lost whatever trust one had, no matter how open I try to be. Sam quietly keeps track of me, gives me longer looks, spends extra hours on his work. He suggests dinners together, puts on music, talks about plans, and I recognize in every word and glance the tension that hangs between us. There's a kind of permission in his patience. If I want to confess, he's prepared to hear me, but nothing after that will ever be the same. The week passes in this heavy silence, each step feeling like a mistake waiting to happen. I wake up night after night, crying more easily, snapping at Lizzie and apologizing when I see her worried eyes. I realize the worst part of this isn't the affair, but the loss of peace, honesty, and hope that anyone will ever fully understand. One especially anxious evening, Sam is late, and I find myself alone in the kitchen, the light from outside making my reflection look ghostly and worn. I realize I'm headed for some breaking point, where all my choices come out into the open and I have to decide what kind of life I want. For now, I'm still clinging to silence, even as I know deep down that silence doesn't save anyone. Time inside the house starts to feel different, every sound is muffled, every shadow reminds me of the mistake that can't be fixed. I notice how Sam spends less time in the kitchen in the mornings, lingers in the garage more, sorting through old boxes and projects. His movements have the same caution I now feel in myself. It seems like we're both waiting for something to drop, for everything to split into before and after. Even Lizzie picks up on how things have shifted. She asks me to sit with her at night while she works on her favorite book, wraps herself in blankets and tries not to look worried, yet can't quite hide how uneasy she really feels. Sam stands by the door a little longer than he used to, talks about how work is getting harder, how friends act differently, and how tired he is most days. I listen, nod, try not to add much of my own feelings. What's happening inside me now is something he couldn't possibly guess, the heaviness of being caught, the dread that I can't undo any of it. One evening I am folding laundry out on our deck when Sam pulls the car into the driveway earlier than usual, sits in it with the engine running before slowly coming inside and resting in front of the silent television. He doesn't say anything, just sits, and I know that if I try to make up another excuse, it'll fall apart. I sit down nearby, try to come up with something to say, grasping for what little defense I have left. The house is very still. The fridge hums in the background, dinner sits unfinished on the table. Sam begins talking about feeling like a stranger among his own family, about how he no longer trusts in words or even the way people's voices sound. My heart aches because I know his loneliness is the cost of my hidden life. We don't have an honest conversation that night, though it feels like the perfect moment for everything to come unraveled. I spend hours weighing whether I should just admit everything about that email, the photos, Tom, all the reasons I've been fooling myself for months. I'd hoped a confession would give some relief, but the fear is too strong. Words seem dangerous now. I decide to stay quiet, channeling all the guilt into chores, laundry, dishes, anything to avoid eye contact because if I did, I might drown in what's waiting there. In the days that follow, our usual exchanges fade away. Sam quits suggesting family walks, skips sharing funny old stories, and seems almost cold at times even when he hears me come home late from work. I learn to live braced for that unavoidable talk, but it never seems to come. Lizzie sometimes asks why Mom and Dad are slow to respond, why dinner is so quiet, and I find myself making up reasons about being tired or having a hard summer or that grown-up worries require extra patience. One morning sunlight pours into the kitchen and I see Sam flipping through old photos, staring at images where I barely recognize myself. He watches for a long time and doesn't come back for his coffee. I suspect he knows a lot more than I'm admitting, and that is a harder pain than anything spoken outright. That night I try to hug him, but there's space between us that memories can't bridge. The last week feels like a cold autumn settling inside our house. Everything goes through the motions as usual, but a sense of something ending hangs heavy. The radio is silent, the living room stays untouched in the mornings. I think to myself it might be better if the final break happened fast, not stretched out in small pieces so that all we have left are silent looks. One night I lie awake and listen to Sam on the porch, staring into the woods behind our house. He talks quietly to himself, searching for the exact reason why we've drifted so far apart. I can't speak up, can't show with a gesture how much pain I feel, only sense the beat of my own fear and the pull of wanting to leave everything behind. These days, all that matters is whether I can move past my fear. I am tired of being scared, tired of excuses and pretending. Every morning feels like a test, even simple things like helping Lizzie are hard, as if I've lost the skill to care freely. I realize it can't go on like this, that I won't last much longer hiding what I've done. There comes a day when I finally decide it's time to tell Sam the truth, to admit the whole story and let whatever comes after happen. I have no strength left to hold together the idea of family, because the worst part isn't the cheating but the betrayal of love that we spent all those years building. The house turns truly cold. There's something like ice between us, but I see in Sam's face that he's trying to hold on. He hears my confession and slowly accepts not just what I've done but the ending that it brings. Lizzie watches us, probably already knowing her life is about to change for good. I know now my job is not to explain why this happened, but to recognize there's no going back to trust. That night, after everything's been said, what remains is a silence, not softer, but different, solid and clear. The pain in both of us brings us to a place neither of us can go back from. When all the noise settled, the house felt changed. Each corner seemed to echo, as if the walls were letting in every breeze and sound from outside. The morning after I told the truth, nothing felt quite real. Every move was slow. Even the scent of fresh coffee or the sound of breakfast on the stove seemed strangely out of place. Sam packed his things without a word. Lizzie spent a long time just looking out the window, drawing something quietly, and I looked down at my own hands, waiting for some kind of sign or a shift deep inside. The days dragged on. Time seemed to fold in on itself. I stopped going for morning jogs, spent hours just staring out the window or helping Lizzie with her homework. There was no rush for anything anymore. Even the chores felt thick and heavy, almost meaningless. I tried to look for release, but mostly what I felt was emptiness, almost like a big, deep sigh that wouldn't end. The first weeks after the confession seemed to last forever. Sam and I barely talked. We covered the basics: bills, groceries, who would take care of Lizzie. He started staying late at work, and I found reasons to be out longer in the afternoons, the two of us passing like ghosts in our own home. I noticed that old fear slowly faded. With nothing left to hide, there was nothing left to be scared of. I kept telling myself the worst had passed, but every night I realized healing wasn't happening. It was as if pieces of myself were slowly burning away. Out in the yard, I noticed the world looking brighter: raindrops on the driveway, the way the leaves glowed in the sunlight, the way the birds flocked on a neighbor's lawn. Every color seemed sharper, but none of it felt mine. It was as if I was looking into someone else's life. Day after day, I started facing my own reflection honestly. No more stories or hidden feelings, just the plain facts of what I'd done. Everything I'd tried so hard to hide was simply part of me now, and maybe finally, I was the one who got to choose what happened next. One evening, Sam was sitting at the table, laughing at something on his screen. For the first time in a long while, it felt a little lighter, almost as if life could be warm again. I cleaned up around the house, packed Lizzie's school bag, and then sat out on the porch, letting the air move gently around me. It struck me that when something ends, sometimes it is because someone is given a chance to try again, even if there's no instant happiness and no fast healing. I quit worrying about fast solutions. I stopped being afraid of loneliness. I no longer needed to defend what happened or find someone to blame. The only real truth I found was this: sometimes, breaking apart is the only way to stop hurting each other, to stop pretending you're still full of hope when all that's left is empty space. And this is where the story ends. If you've listened all the way through and you liked this story, please subscribe and tap the bell. It really does help the channel to grow and means I can keep bringing you more stories about family, choices, and the things that test us all. But there's more to this story than betrayal. It's honesty. It's about fragile hopes. It's about how sometimes we end up hurting the people we love most, often when we are most scared of losing something deep inside ourselves. And what do you think? Is cheating ever possible to forgive, or does being too honest just mean everything falls apart for good? Is it worth telling the truth when it's likely to break someone's heart? Can you fix a marriage after the worst happens, or is it healthier to walk away for good? Did this story change your view on trust and betrayal? Can you really understand someone's pain without making them the villain? Share your thoughts and your own stories below. Let's see what answers we all come up with, even if those answers never come easy.